Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. It's been a privilege to be part of this community every weekday morning now for almost 6 years with Bruce and Sandy, Safta Stieber, Penny, Lydia, Jonathan, Sharon, good to see you. Michelle and Jane, Carl, Boker Tov, good to see all of you. Hi, Jonathan. Hope that everyone is keeping warm. The temperature here, at least on the east coast of the United States and many other parts of the country, is incredibly cold. Thinking about friends all over and hoping that you are all safe and well. Let's see who else is here. We'll say a few good mornings, then we'll sing a blessing, learn some Torah. Harab. Linda and Joyce, Judy and Cheryl, Sunday and Peter, good to see you. Arlene and Amy, Marcia, Dave, Cecile, and Arlene, good morning. Hi, Nicole. Hope that you're well. Okay. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Cynthia. Karen. Kim, so good to see you. Saw a video of you. Sorry for interrupting everybody, but Kim, I saw a video of you at Kikar Chatufim, what will now formerly be known as Hostage Square, being interviewed as the clock ended its count since October 7th. What a beautiful moment for you to witness on our behalf. Thank you for being there. Patricia and Jerry, Nathalia, good morning. I know. Barbara and Arlene, good morning, everyone. Hi, Scott. Penny, thank you. Today is broadcast 1479. Let's take a breath, sing a blessing, and learn some Torah. Here we go. Hi, Adrian. Nice to see you. All right, everybody, good morning. Linda, sending you comfort, such comfort, as I see everyone else doing too. And yes, Joy, as you pointed out, the group, this morning community, or, Peter's in Frankfurt, so it's not quite morning. And Catherine, in Australia, it's 1 a.m. every time you join us. So it's not always morning Torah for each of us, but what a gift it is to see the kind of support and responsiveness, even during the live broadcasts, let alone what has begun to happen offline between new friends. So thank you, everyone, for being part of that. We have to, as human beings, as Jews, we have to be able to have our focus in more than one place at a time. Robin is in Israel, and so I get to say we're there too. We are in Frankfurt, we are in Australia, we are in Israel, we are in New York, we are wherever else we are. And the power of being present in all of these places means that we have many eyes in many directions, and our heart has the capacity of all of us combined. And so it is very important, and I have not focused centrally on what has been happening on the streets of Minneapolis and elsewhere in the United States. It is very important for us to be able to send our hearts there too, and more fully than we have. I had been planning Monday morning to speak about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, two American citizens whose lives were brutally taken in the midst of a terrible, terrible abuse of power on the streets of America. Now, whatever your politics are, these were captured on film, and the witnessing of murder is something that indelibly stains our soul. That we have watched it and understood it and been told that we did not see what we saw feels Orwellian at best. If you're familiar with the writing of George Orwell, not only 1984, but also 1984, you know that part of the way wrong happens in the world is when people are told that they did not see what they saw. Well, we have eyes, and we also have a responsibility. The tradition that we cherish so much has our hearts responsible for so much. And so it might be weighty, friends. It is. But we have to be able to pay attention. And it's complicated to say such a thing, but as on my other screen is literally happening right now, the Ron Gvili's funeral of blessed memory, the final hostage to be returned from Gaza. For the first time in 10 years, there are no Israeli hostages in Gaza. What a thing for us to be confronting, holding, and, please God, healing from. Though, of course, it should never have been, and so this isn't happy. But there is a shift that might be happening in our world and for our people that allows us, I'm praying for this strength, to have capacity in our hearts once again to focus in multiple ways. It's not a strength that I have felt in a long time. That might be true for you, but I know that it's true for me. And so by pointing explicitly to what has been happening on the streets of Minneapolis, which is not just disruption, it is violence, and with many clergy friends telling me that it is worse than what we are seeing in the headlines. I have one dear friend who's on the ground in Minneapolis in a role as clergy, who has told me that there are two young children whose parents were disappeared by ICE agents who now don't have parents or anyone, and so two members of their synagogue, of this person's synagogue, took in these two children, but there's no clarity in terms of where their parents are and where responsibility rests and what to do. And that's just one story of many. The resilience and the love that's being shown by religious communities in Minneapolis is unfathomable, and showing up in negative 40-degree weather for clergy at the airport. You probably have seen videos or a photo of clergy on their knees praying, showing what true non-violence looks like in the face of violence. That kind of heroism deserves amplification. And for the first time in a long time, I'm praying for the strength to respond appropriately, because it's not a political issue. This is a human issue. This is not partisan. No one should ever have this done to them. No one. And I pray for a better day for Minneapolis and for the rest of the United States. There are gatherings happening all over, and they have to be done with the right spirit, not shrieking reactivity, because we cannot become the thing that we're fighting against. Violence against violence is not going to be the way. We have seen heroic icons who march and who pray and who sing and who write and who care and who comfort and who rebuild. That has been a tradition that we as Jews have always believed in. Fight when you must, love and care always. Let us learn our history and let us write a better chapter starting now. We are all responsible. And to our friends who are part of our Morning Torah community outside of the United States, send us your hearts too, because this is a moment of deep vulnerability. And I wanted to connect it to the Parsha because of all the Parshiot that we could be in, all the Torah portions that we could be in. Today is one of the days during the week that we read Parshat Beshalach. Beshalach literally means when Pharaoh sent us out from Egypt. And what is so important here, friends, is that it wasn't a gentle sending out. It was a throwing us out after so much pain was caused. And important to note, similar to the tradition at Seders, at Passover Seders, when we call out in our anguish and rage, we open our doors in a moment that we sing for Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah, to come be with us and tell us that a better day is coming. We say a phrase that is very complicated. We say in Hebrew, Shvo chamatcha al hagoyim. God, pour out your wraths upon the nations. And what is important here, and this is a teaching of Rabbi Gordon Tucker's, is that we are actually externalizing our rage and projecting it onto God so that God should export our rage. We should not act on it ourselves. Our responsibility is justice, not violent vengeance. That's not how we respond. And so Beshalach itself comes in the aftermath not of human beings, not of the Israelites committing violence, but of the plague sent by God as a divine notion of justice. It is so important, friends, for us to understand the nuance here. Because if we do not read this correctly, we see ourselves as agents of God's vengeance. No. We should always stand for ourselves and with force, if we must, in self-defense. But there is a crucial difference between fighting for justice and taking vengeance. And in this calamitous moment, especially in the United States, and not only in the United States, we must remember who we are. We are the students of so many who've come before us, freedom riders and others, who sat at counters in the face of violence, who stood their ground when attacked, who crossed bridges and didn't carry weapons. We are a people who are better than that. We are the students of the marchers. How do we connect it to the Parsha beyond this notion of freedom and in the aftermath of plagues? Well, Beshalach is also known, the Shabbat that we read Beshalach, this coming Shabbat, is known as Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song, because the sea splits. We cross through and we sing. And there are traditions, midrashim, right? Not in the biblical text itself, but about the biblical text, interpretations, embellishments, legends. This one comes from Psikta de Rav Kahana, an ancient collection of midrash. I'll just read a paragraph and then make a comment about it. So I invite you to open your hearts not to the Torah's text itself, but to the imaginative next stage of our people's imaginative life, right? The scaffolding of tradition shows that every generation has a voice. When Rabbi Yochanan once asked his students to describe the appearance of the walls of the Red Sea, because you might know the biblical texts say that the water was choma miminam mismolam, that the walls of the Red Sea were to their right and to the left, which means the split had the water stand like walls. When no one could do so, no one could describe what it was like, Rabbi Yochanan described them as resembling a window lattice. Then all at once they heard a voice say, No, it wasn't like that at all. And when they looked up, they saw the face of a very old woman peering in the window of the house of study. Who are you? Demanded Rabbi Yochanan. I am Serach bat Asher, came the voice, and I know exactly what the walls resembled. I was there. I crossed the Red Sea, and they resembled shining mirrors, mirrors in which every man, woman, and child was reflected, so that it seemed like an even greater multitude crossed there, not only those of the present, but also those of the past and future as well. And when Serach had finished speaking, none dared contradict her, for her knowledge was firsthand. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? Rabbi Yochanan, an ancient sage living 2,000 years ago, asked his students, "Can you imagine what the walls of the Red Sea looked like?" And they could not. It's beyond what they could imagine. He offers a suggestion probably derived from Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, where we have a tradition that God peeks in through the lattice work of the window. It's a beautiful image, but that is contradicted by an eyewitness somehow. Serach bat Asher, a legendary figure who's mentioned in the book of Genesis and in the book of Exodus, who lives for hundreds of years, well, according to the rabbis, much longer than that, thousands of years, so that she could bear witness to these students in this classroom what it looked like. And the walls looked like mirrors, but mirrors that showed the past, the present, and the future, so that it seemed like even more people were present as we crossed the sea. And if it is a vision of the future, then friends, you and I are what our ancestors saw. And so I ask you, on that ancient march to freedom, were you and I really there? And if we were, have we ever really stopped marching? Are we ever allowed to stop marching until everyone is there with us? What is freedom if it is only true for some? It's a complicated thing to name such a thing, because we are in a moment where what should be basic human understanding becomes shrill and partisan. That's not what it is. That's not what it is, friends. Our freedom story is meant to be shared, and it costs no one anything. To see God's image in the eyes of another human being costs me nothing and gives us everything. Alex Preddy and Renee Good were two images of God whose lives were ignored, snuffed out, whose image of God was denied by violence on the streets of America. We must be better than that. Our history tells us we haven't always been better than that. We have a responsibility. The same values that animate my heart when it comes to, I'm looking at Ron Gvili on my other screen, that comes to my children, must come to my heart and be my commitment to any child of God. We've never stopped marching, but I dare say, friends, that a mirror can be a limiting thing for our vision. If all I do is see myself, I'm missing so much. I would bless us in this moment that wherever we look, because we are free to turn our head and devote our time and give of our means, we should make sure that we see our ancestors and what they have bequeathed to us. And we should see our descendants and hear their questions in advance. What did you do when this was happening? We have a responsibility, just as our ancestors did, to fight when we must, to know that sometimes we must, and to respond with dignity when inhumanity rears its ugly head. That is true for the Jewish community. That is true for humanity. May it be true for the United States of America. Let's take a breath, friends. Send our hearts to the east and sing. And for the final time, may the memory of Ron Gvili be for a blessing. May his parents and family know comfort. May his fellow Israeli police officers know that we are with them. May Tzahal, the IDF that has given so much and so many who've sacrificed the ultimate, their own lives, for the sake of returning our beloveds. May they all know that what we are saying about humanity, we are saying with and for them. Send your hearts. Let's sing. Kol hod balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון Virushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.